Representative Justin Amash, who until recently was a Republican member of Congress, went on Jake Tapper's program over the weekend to discuss how Republican members of Congress have reacted to him and his calls for impeachment on Donald Trump. His answer is definitely revealing. Take a look.
Well, I get people sending me text messages, people calling me saying, thank you for what you're doing, great op-ed. When I was discussing impeachment, I had fellow colleagues and other Republicans, high-level officials contacting me saying, thank you for what you're doing. So there are lots of Republicans out there who are saying these things privately, but they're not saying it publicly. And I think that's a problem for our country. It's a problem for the Republican Party. It's a problem for the Democratic Party when people aren't allowed to speak out. So I think we really need the American people to stand up and say, hey, enough is enough. We've had it with these two parties trying to ram their partisan nonsense down our throats week after week. We want a person to go represent us and be open and represent the entire community.
So I want to give credit to Eric Erickson, which I almost never do, because he broke a story a while back where he went and talked to a Republican congressman, and Congressman said, "Oh, we all know he's crazy, and Trump is out of control, stupid, you name it, we all know it. But we just can't do anything about it because we're scared to death of getting primaried." So you got to give Amash credit for sticking to principle. And look, I think he originally was from the most right-wing group in Congress, the Freedom Caucus. And I think that most of those guys, and I've said this on many occasions, don't have any ideology or principles. They just take Koch brother money and they serve libertarian principles, which is make sure you cut taxes for the Koch brothers, make sure you pay their employees as little as possible and deregulate them so they could put cancer in your neighborhood, right? But Amash apparently actually does have principles, because now he's gonna get primaried. His primary opponent already has a lead on him on the Republican side.
Yes.
And he left the Freedom Caucus, and now on 4th of July, he left the Republican Party. And so it turns out there isn't right-winger in the country. And by the way, I disagree with Amash on 98% of stuff. I think he's loony on his actually policy proposals that I don't think are good ideas at all, okay? But all I care about is, do we have honest actors or don't we? Or are they just corrupt and working for the donors? And Amash proved himself here. And the fact that he is now more adamantly in favor of holding Trump accountable than 90% of Democrats is deeply, deeply embarrassing and gives you a sense of the sorry state of the Democratic Party.
Right, honestly, the sorry state of both parties, because while we often talk about the cowardice from Nancy Pelosi and Democratic leadership, there's a certain level of cowardice coming from the Republican Party. And I mean, I guess, knew it, but we don't really articulate it as much. So for instance, I mean, there was an anonymous op-ed written in the New York Times by someone in Trump's administration. We still don't know who it was, but someone who didn't have the courage to come out with his or her name revealed to criticize Trump and how clownish he is, how unstable he's making the country, how unhinged he is. They had to do it anonymously. I mean, that is a level of cowardice that I think is incredibly pathetic. But with that said, Amash does call out Nancy Pelosi, so I want to go to that part of his interview next.
A mistake. Do you think that the Democrats should be starting impeachment proceedings based on the Mueller report, what's in there about potential obstruction of justice, which is the case you laid out?
Yeah, from a principled, moral position, she is making a mistake. From a strategic position, she is making a mistake. If she believes, as I do, that there's impeachable conduct in there, then she should say so. She should tell the American people we're going to move forward with impeachment hearings and potentially articles of impeachment. When she says things like, oh, I think that we need to have the strongest case before we go forward, what she's telling the American people is she doesn't think there's a strong case. If she doesn't think that, then she shouldn't open her mouth in the first place and say she thinks there's impeachable conduct. I do believe there's a strong case. I believe she believes there's a strong case, and if so, she should move forward and make sure that the American people understand what's going on, because people at home aren't reading the Mueller report. Most people don't have time to read a 448-page report. They expect their members of Congress to do the work for them. They want Speaker Pelosi to do the work. They want other members to do the work. And if she doesn't want to go forward, then we're going to have a big problem.
And now that we know that there are Republican members of Congress who feel the same way but don't have the courage to come out and say it publicly, I think it's even more important that Pelosi push forward with an impeachment inquiry.
So 2 more things for me on this. I think the best point Amash made is when she keeps saying we need to have a stronger case, you're by definition telling people that you think we don't have a strong case. And that is why Trump gets to go around thumping his chest going, no collusion, no obstruction. That doesn't make any sense if you read the Mueller report or heard Mueller's press conference or know a single thing about this story. But the American people rightfully go, I don't know. Trump says he's innocent, and Pelosi seems to be saying he's innocent. That they don't have a strong case against him. That if they go forward, that he'll get exonerated. That's the language that Pelosi uses. And so there are these people in the mainstream media who are totally clueless, and since they're children, they think we're children. And so they'll say, I say, look, isn't it embarrassing to get outflanked by Justin Amash on your left, Nancy Pelosi? And reporters jump in, not Democrats, reporters. Oh, that's outrageous. I mean, did you know that Justin Amash is actually very right-wing? Of course we know that, you simpletons. And that's the point. When someone that right-wing outflanks you on the left on a matter of principle, you gotta hold the guy accountable to protect the Constitution. You cannot allow lawlessness. That should be a progressive priority, not just a constitutional priority and a legal priority, but standing for justice for everyone is a progressive priority. And on this issue, you let Amash not only outflank you, but make great points about how you're in fact helping Donald Trump, which leads to my final point. They say, hey, this is all over social media. It's actually a very small contingent because most social media is real people, and they're like, yeah, I can't stand Pelosi anymore. But she dismissed that as Twitter or whatever. But they have some trolls or bots, or maybe they're even real people who go out there and go, Cenk, you should spend your time fighting Trump instead of Pelosi. I would love to if she would just get out of the way. But she's the one saying, no, you're not allowed to fight Trump. I represent and I lead all Democrats, and I will not pursue impeachment. And in fact, I'll say it's not a strong case, he'll be exonerated. I'll misstate the law on it, saying that we can't prosecute him after he's out of office if we pursue impeachment. That's not remotely true. I will do all of this in protection of Donald Trump, and then you tell me I should fight Trump. I would love to fight Trump. Get out of the goddamn way so we can have at him.
Also, people who accuse you of not wanting to fight Trump don't watch the show.
I've never watched a minute of the show, okay? But they're like, no, I have to protect Nancy Pelosi, the powerful. Oh my God, where are we gonna get corporate donations if it wasn't for Nancy Pelosi? And then we would take those donations and do what? Pass Medicare for all? No.
No.
Green New Deal? No. She could even pass $15 minimum wage. She promised to, not AOC. Nothing. She's accomplished nothing.
It's very
and the
sad.
one thing that she said was resistance. And now she spends her whole time resisting AOC and progressives, and none of her time resisting Donald Trump. You want detention centers? Have it in every way with every specificity you asked for. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. You want me to block impeachment? Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Resistance. What a joke. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.